Hello, it is a dark episode for January the 28th, 2022. I don't know if I wrote in my journal yesterday. I think I completely gapped. Now I'm actually trying to remember when I wrote my journal last. It's funny, you get a streak going, and you just do, and then a brain fart happens, or maybe I was just tired, or maybe in the number of things that I did last night, I didn't do it. Yeah, it's interesting. Or maybe I did do it, and I've just completely gapped on it. I honestly can't remember. Excuse me. Perhaps that is why I keep a journal. To be honest, oftentimes I get to the end of a day and I have to go, what did I do today? And I have to really think hard because, well, I work for a living and my days are pretty regular. And I'm not going anywhere because there's a pandemic going on. And, well, to be honest, even when there's not a pandemic going on, I'm a bookish, reclusive guy who doesn't really have any real life friends. So life can get a little bit samey. And unless I'm having a good, ripe emotional crisis, my things can be a little bit blendy togethery. You know, the things that happened today. I did a review of Michael Armstrong Factory Boy. I don't know how great of a review it is. It's definitely too long as usual, but I think there were less ums and ahs in it, which is good. That is what I am striving to accomplish at the moment. That is my improvement for the moment. My next improvement will have to be try and make notes that are a little bit more definitive. Though I actually did make notes for this review, and then probably wandered off or overtalked on one of them a little bit too much. At least I avoided giving a full history of the Industrial Revolution and the Chartist movement and various reform acts. I avoided getting into that too deeply. I did mention the Chartist movement because I think it's what Francis Trollope was reacting negatively against, especially the more violent agitprop, the more violent insurrectionist members of that. So much so that she seems to have cut her project short on Michael Armstrong, which, speaking as someone who was reading all of that out, I'm glad we only did 2 volumes and not 4 volumes. That would have killed me, I think, to go on for another 4 or 5 months of reading Michael Armstrong, even though I found a lot to enjoy about it. Yeah, just an odd book in the end. Very odd book in the end. I think I got that across, buried at the very, very ass end of that review. Just how odd that book was in some ways. How fetishizing of young poor people that book was. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Deep breath. What else today? I watched a very long video on the bell curve, which was actually a really fascinating explication of why these guys are racist fucks. They outline a certain kind of stuff and say, yeah, the data's not in yet. However, we have all these things where you should pull funding from Head Start programs and stop any funding for helping for what the hell is it called? take a deep breath. Just be comfortable with the silence. For it's not in my head, but basically any kind of program that is trying to address inequalities in our society that are perpetrated against people, usually black people, is we should stop this all, even though we don't actually have the evidence, and the evidence we do have seems to argue exactly against it, and we seem to be quoting a lot of people in our book who have ties to really racist organizations, racist, right back, tracing themselves right back to the Nazis, which, that's sort of one of those truisms of how long does it take in a conversation to get to the Nazis. Though the thing that probably interested me, maybe why I listened to this video by Sean. He's he's a left wing YouTuber, YouTuber essayist, is that it very much deals with eugenics in the final thing of it. Indeed, they seem to be saying, eugenics, this is the good kind of eugenics versus the bad type. Psst, 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 psst. Hey, come on, psst, psst. Twerks, go on. Hey, psst, come on, go on, go. Oh, go on. Keep going this way. We don't need to deal with that. Somebody's a ratter, or found something like a rat, which hopefully is escaped. But good Lord. All right, we had a little rodent. You go this way and do stuff. So yes, the bell. I haven't been saying the bell jar, have I said? The bell curve, the famous racist IQ book from the 80s or 90s? I think it's the 90s. It was very much kind of going back to kind of eugenics, which does make me think of the code breaker and the technology that is now being placed in our hands, which unfortunately you think, the whole thing with eugenics is still out there, and we've now got technology that makes it much easier to edit our genes. And what is the interaction that will come from a hunk of our population, thinking like, hey, maybe there are good eugenics, and indeed even the proponents, saying like, well, we're going to have to think about what's good. Like maybe it would be immoral not to edit genes to make humans better, for them to have good genes, which is like, shit. That was an interesting little juxtaposition there, which I might actually bring up in a review of the code breaker. Yeah. All right. Well, I slightly got derailed by critters going after the rat. Well, Theo, are you a ratter now? You definitely seem to really take against it. All right. I'm going to leave it there. I'm sure my neighbors think I'm just insane, wandering around the backyard talking to myself while the dogs go crazy about rats. But no ums, no ahs. Well, I'm sure there were some ums and ahs in there, but okay. It's going back to see if Theo can see if we're going back to see if they can find more rats. So I'm going to go intercept them before they start barking again. More videos later.